What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with the GC Cup update. And finally, for the first time in a long time, it's a pretty positive one. We have gotten a little bit of momentum, a good run over the course of the last 2 weeks. So let's see where we stand now. We'll go back to the Valspar, which I don't think I did a recap video on. But here is the lineup that we rolled out at Valspar. It was a 4 of 6 lineup. Patrick Reed and Gary Woodland missed the cut, but we got through Jason Kokrak, who finished T2, Sung Jae Im, who finished T4, Russell Knox with the top 25, and then our 2.2% owned Hank Lebioda also made the cut, which is really all we were asking for from him. This was good enough for a 21st place finish, so a solid top 25 in the Valspar. But the big hit recently, it wasn't a win, but last week at the match play, we went out and finished 4th, which is our best finish of the season by far. Actually, I bet you Valspar and the match play are our 2 best finishes of the year. In fact, I'm pretty sure of that. If you watched any of the content that I put out for the match play, you knew this was something I was taking very seriously. I was putting a lot of thought into, and it's nice to see that actually showed and bared itself out here in this GC Cup. So we had Sergio, Kuchar, Molinari, Rose, Stenson all got out of their groups. Benyon went 1 and 2, did not, but at least in his third and final match, he went out and beat the crap out of somebody. He won 6 and 5 in his last round. Kuchar ends up coming in second. Molinari wins the consolation match. So a lot of points here. I mean, you can see Molinari had more points than Kisner, who even won this thing. More points than Kuchar. Just, the nature of match play being where if you just absolutely dominate, even if you don't end up winning the tournament, that was much more valuable. So having Molinari was huge there. So where does that put us now? Because if you remember, we were basically, there's 144 people in this. We were basically at like 125 for a while. Then we did all right. We moved up to 90th. Well, after 2 pretty good weeks in a row, we are right here in 48th, which is great. So if you remember, the top 125, just like the FedEx Cups, get through to the GC Cup playoffs. Then I think it goes down to 100 or it goes down to 75. I forget what the next round is, but you play down to like the Tour Championship equivalent, the GC Cup Championship, where there's only, I think, 30 of you left for the final prizes. So much improved our position in the last 2 weeks with 41 points at the Valspar, 135 at the match play. So absolutely excellent. And then also, we are in segment 2, so we're in 13th place in segment 2, which, if I pull up the schedule here, we have played 3 tournaments here in segment number 2. Valero this week being the 4th, and then the Masters next week being the 5th. We're in a really good spot early in this segment. The segment payouts include $600 for first place, $300 for second, $262 for third, $187 for fourth, and $150 for fifth. So if we can finish in the top 5 of this segment, we will get paid out and be turning a profit in this contest no matter what. And then hopefully that will springboard us, even further up as we go for, the season long. And actually, while I'm thinking about this, we must have won a little bit of money here. Okay, so each event is, so we finished 4th, so we would have earned $25 for that finish. So you can win on an event-by-event basis, a segment basis, and then, of course, a season-long basis. So fun little contest that we've got going on here. We've returned our first cash here, and we'll look to parlay it for this week, which is the Valero Texas Open. So who are we going to play this week? And drum roll, please. Here's the lineup. I won't get too deep into this. I talked a lot about these guys in the DFS preview, talked a lot about them in the one and done preview. But this is what I settled on when I went to make my lineups, and I kind of went back and forth a lot on this. It ended up being a fairly balanced lineup outside of rostering Chip McDaniel for the absolute bare minimum. The reason that we did this, purely just trying to ride this hot hand. So McDaniel Monday qualified last week in Corrales. Ends up going out and finishing T5, which gets him into the Valero Texas Open. He's a young guy. I think he's only 1 or 2 years out of college. He's done pretty well up the ranks of the web.com tour. For a min price in this weak field, I felt like I couldn't pass him up, because what it allowed me to do for only $6,000, the bare minimum, is get 5 other guys that I'm fairly comfortable with. Remember, it's a really, really weak field. Outside of Ricky, outside of Tony Finau, Sung Jae maybe, like there's not a lot of great plays here. I had Finau in this lineup. At some points, he would have been the guy that I wanted to pay up for. But if I went up and got Tony, I couldn't have gotten as balanced of a build as you're seeing on the screen right now. So the rest of this lineup rounds out like this. So Chip McDaniel, bare minimum $6,000. Billy Horschel, $9,800. Billy Horschel, great putter, which is something that we talked about we're going to need this week. Great course history, played decently well to match play, ran into Kevin Na, who made a pretty deep run, fine with this. Jason Kokrak continues to play awesome. We have rostered him nearly every single week for the past 6 weeks or so. It's worked. We're going to continue to ride him. He's one of the better players in this field. Juice Luton, who plays mostly on the European Tour, but if we look through and see some of his metrics or some of his finishes here, 12th at the Oman Open, 10th at the WGC Mexico, 6th at the Saudi International in his last 3 starts. He has a 3rd place back in January through Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. So absolutely a class player in this field specifically. When you go and look at the strokes gain stats, even for like WGC Mexico, it's obviously a small sample size because it was only 4 rounds, but played well tee to green. He fits the mold here. Aaron Baddeley is someone that I mentioned on the DFS preview who, again, you want to roster Aaron Baddeley in these poor field events, right? Puerto Rico Open, T2, Punta Cana last week, T7, even showed up with a T17 at the Arnold Palmer, which is a much more difficult field. But these are the types of situations where it's a very weak field. Baddeley has good course history here. We're going to roster him. And we want guys who are able to get off the tee. I'm a little nervous that Luke List, can't putt to save his life. And putting is going to be important this week, but he makes up for it with his off the tee stats. And only being $8,000, I thought this was a little bit mispriced. I thought List could have easily have been 85, 86, just because he has a lot of assets. For him to only come in at 8,000, I was almost required to play him. The other combination that I was considering would have been, I think it was no Horschel, no Luton, and it was Finau and Ryan Palmer instead. Really thought long and hard about that. Didn't really love playing Palmer. Wanted to get Horschel in there, who I thought was going to be, less owned than Tony Finau. When I ran the numbers, I did it based on my projection of how often these guys are going to make the cut. My plan for this tournament continues to be get six guys through the cut. If you get 6 guys through the cut, you're going to finish pretty high and rack up the points in every single one of these contests. So I opted to go for the 2 guys that had a higher probability of making the cut. That ended up being Horschel and Juiced. So we are going to roll with those guys and see what happens. Let me know what you think about that. Are you in this contest? Is this something, I should probably tell the guys at Gups Corner, like, this is a great format. This is something that I would love to see everyone get into for next year. And maybe they need to open up, I think there's 4 different groups this year. Maybe we need to get to like 10, because this is a really good format, because it's not only the weekly aspect of it, but the season-long approach to it, where You know, I think it helps the cream rise to the top a little bit. I think it just adds another layer of strategy. It's a lot of fun. I'm finding it to be incredibly entertaining. So let me know what you think about this format in general. If you're interested in playing something like this next year, I really love it. So I hope you guys do too. Tweet me at DFS on demand or leave a comment below. I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.